is it anywhere?
Hey there, Tamara here, and welcome to the Loft. Tonight we are going to be talking about men's mental health. And to do that, I have a returning visitor. His name is a really good friend of mine, Richard Dwight Sutton Sr. And because, of course, I'm a woman and this is a topic that I may not quite understand, is something that I feel is important for the audience to know. And this is the perfect person to be able to have this discussion with. There's so many questions that's going to come on board, but why don't you say hi to the audience, Rich? It's good to see you again, my friend.
Always. I don't know why you're lying to these people. I don't know about the perfect person, but we won't converse. Yeah, I'm talking about we won't converse.
Yeah, we're going to chit chat. We're going to converse.
We won't chit chat. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, yes. And this men's mental health, especially Black men's mental health, is such a reality here in this country right now. And um, it's dicey. It's a real topic that we need to discuss. It's things that people don't discuss a lot. And I know that you see or deal with it a lot, especially with what it is that you do. So if you could share with the audience a little bit about what it is that you do, like your profession and everything, I just want to, you know, to you to.
Oh. I am a public school special ed seventh and eighth grade teacher for reading and math.
Okay. How long have
But
you been doing that for?
this is what my third year teaching, my first year teaching SPED.
Okay.
I'm the
Nice.
I'm the SPED teacher that used to be the SPED student.
Yeah. I'm telling you, that's a testimony with it. It's so our guest got to go back and check out that episode for real because that is good. A lot of people were talking about it because that is very impressive. That's a testimony within itself.
Right, right. I guess
Yeah,
you could say
but
that.
you know what, Rich, you gotta tell them because you shared with me the story about your background, which was very interesting. You taught me a history lesson tonight. I didn't even know. So share with us about the your background there with the Statue of Liberties.
Oh, so on the Statue of Liberties in here, if you look at the one to the right, which would be my right, your left, is the statue is a black woman, and the one to the left, which is your right, is the Statue of Liberty we know. The Statue of Liberty of the black woman is the original Statue of Liberty that was sent to America. But when they received it and seen that it was a black woman, they didn't want any parts of it, so they sent it back and asked them to redo it and change the whole thing. So they sent it back. This one is still standing, and I can't remember off the top of my head what country it's in. But if you Google it, it'll come up exactly what country it's in. But
Oh, wow.
she's still standing.
Mhm.
But she's just not standing here in the Americas where she was supposed to originally be.
See, that's something else. She is beautiful too.
Yeah,
She
right.
is
God love
beautiful.
her.
That is, yeah. Oh my gosh. See, another fun fact. I tell you, I tell you
Right.
the truth. But
Another fun
let's
fact.
start on this topic tonight. I had to jot down some questions because I really would like this to be discussed because I feel a lot of people deal with it. They
Hmm.
struggle with it. They don't know which way to turn and would love some insight from you, especially, who you are, what it is that you do, and you will be able to give more insight than myself in regards to the topic. So one of the first questions I had, and with mental health and therapy, you know how I don't know if you've seen it's just my opinion and perception. There's a lot of men I see out there, especially Black men who kind of step away from therapy. And how do you feel, how important do you feel that it is to actually step into that and possibly talk to a therapist if you feel that there's something that you're struggling with and you're going through?
I think the first thing you gotta think about is the stigma of going to therapy and what it is and how it stands in the Black community. It may have the same type of stigma in other communities, but I can speak from a Black community perspective. That a lot of times you feel like, if you going, what they call the shrink. If you go and see the shrink, then something got to be wrong with you or something
Yep.
like that, right? But I think that the time has come, that we are evolving from where we were and the ignorance behind it to where we are now, where more people are being more uh, open to actually see a therapist. I just don't think enough of us are open to it, for multiple reasons. I think for some reasons, some people may not have the money to pay for a therapist, so they don't have the insurance to pay for a therapist, and stuff like that. And if you notice that now they're giving so many options to do therapy now. You can download the app, and do therapy. You can do virtual therapy. You can go in and see someone for therapy. So they're definitely making it a lot of options for. It's funny because when I first went to therapy, I had a horrible experience the first time I went to therapy. And I went to therapy and I had to pick somebody. So I wound up picking. It was right after I had separated from my ex-wife, and I was like, I need to do therapy. So I took a stab at it. Right, it's been about almost 10 years ago. And so I'm looking. I find a therapist. It was a Black woman. She happened to be from Queens, New York. I'll never forget her. When I tell you, it's one of the most horrible experiences I ever had. It definitely could have deterred me from going back to therapy. So then, and actually did. I stopped going. She never called to check to see why I wasn't coming anymore, or anything like that.
Mm.
So then, a few years later, I took another stab at it, and I wound up getting another Black woman. And I told her about the experience, and she was like, "Look, listen. Um, don't judge all therapists off of one therapist." And I had to really let that soak, because it's kind of like, especially now being an educator, you can't judge all educators because you had a bad experience with one or two educators, right? We all come
Right.
from a different code, a different background. Our passion for it is different, so. And when I found my new therapist, she was dope. I loved her. She was super dope. So much so that she was trying to convince me to go back to school, to get my degree in therapy, because she was like, "Listen, I think you should become a therapist." And I said, "Well, why do you think that?" She's like, "I think you'll be great at it." And she was saying that there's not a lot of heterosexual Black men that are therapists, and she's like, she wanted to take her son to therapist, and she had the hardest time finding a heterosexual Black man as a therapist. And it was just an interesting perspective. um and it's funny, when I went back to finish my bachelor's degree, I took a psych class, and I loved that class. That class was like so dope. And so it's something I still ponder with and play with, that I might, decide to do at some point, because she was like, "If you do it, you can earn your hours with me." She was hyped about it. But back to your question. So I think that's what it is. It's the stereotypes behind it and people not understanding the importance of it. And I think the key to it too is you have to find the right therapist. And for me, when I'm no expert at this, so those that might see this or hear this, could put in the comments, your perspective. But I believe therapists are like a good doctor or a good dentist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Being referred to one sometimes is the best move, right? If you know
Right.
somebody that know a good therapist and they refer you, sometimes that's a dope way. But then sometimes, from what I understand, and I may not fully be right on this, but from what I understand, sometimes a therapist, if if the therapist is seeing somebody, then they won't take you on as a as a client for some reason. I don't know why. Um, so I don't know if that's fully true across the board, but I have heard of some therapists that would do that. So I don't know, but yeah, I think that's one of the things, the stigma behind going to see a therapist. There's a lot of negative connotation that's been behind it for years, especially if you like a Gen Xer or or
Mhm.
anything like that. We Gen Xers, that's what that's the negative connotation. Now these millennials and stuff like that, I think it may be a little different from them. Not sure.
Yep. See, that's deep that you said that. That was going to be my next question was about the impact. Do you feel what what is the impact you feel about negative experiences and things of that nature? So you pretty much answered that to the T, which is great. Um, it's just like because something like that can impact the mental wellness of a man, and it will deter him, just like you said, you almost stepped away from it, but it's just like because of a bad experience. But thank God and thankfully you were able to press forward and you got that recommendation. So what you're advising is it's better to get a referral, somebody who has seen this individual or
So, I mean, I think so. I didn't get a recommendation. I just went and looked again, and I
right
looked up and
researched.
got a awesome therapist. She was just awesome. She was light years away from my first experience. The first experience, she was horrible, like
Yeah.
horrible enough that I would think like her license should be revoked type horrible. She was horrible, like
Oh,
that bad. So, but
mm,
when I got my new therapist, she was just dope, man. The way she made me feel comfortable. She made me feel safe.
mm,
Just the way the environment was in her office. She just was just a dope therapist. That I felt like she kept me in tune with it. And so it's funny because I lost her number and all that. So I actually want to get me another therapist and start going. I just feel like you should have you should have a therapist,
mhm,
um just in general to talk to, right? Just somebody else
mhm.
that's outside of your hue, right? That just that you can sit and talk about some things and figure some things out, put some things in perspective, and
Yeah.
find your way. Because sometimes I think with therapists, it's not about them giving you the answers. I don't think that's what it's about. From my experience, I can't speak for everybody else's. I can only speak from my experience. So I want to be clear on that. And what I'm speaking from my own personal experiences. I'm not speaking for the masses. I'm not speaking for or anything of that nature or for therapists themselves. I'm speaking from my experience. And
Right.
I felt like my experience was she guided me and put me on the path to kind of figure some things out. She didn't try to give me any answers for anything, but she did try to lead me and guide me and give me things to do, things to think about, to kind of guide me to that path to where it was I was trying to and how I was trying to figure things out.
Right. That's awesome. That is encouraging what you just shared because I know a lot of the guests, well, just like I don't know, but I'm sure there are a few people who maybe were straddling the fence in regards to going and seeing someone or thinking, okay, just like you said in the beginning, are they going to think it's something wrong with me if I go and see one? But it's not that. I love the word that you use when you said guide, because sometimes we have to have an unbiased person in our life to
Hmm.
talk to, somebody who don't know us, because they really can't formulate too much of opinions based on how they know us, where they know us from. It's just like they
Hmm.
don't know us at all. So all they're hearing, and they're trained too, and all they're hearing is what it is that we are actually sharing with them and able to give you a good perspective, a different
Hmm.
perspective than what you would hear from somebody else or somebody that knew you and assume that this is the why behind you're doing something,
Hmm.
but it may not be. So
Right.
that's really awesome. Now, question, do you feel that the environment that a man has grown up in impacts his mental wellness? And is it possible to have good mental wellness regardless of the environment that someone grew up in? Like, do you think that in regards to mental health, does it depend on where you grew up at, your environment, your home, your foundation, or do you think that somebody still can grow up in a place where maybe things weren't too right, but they just had a strong mind and were able to move forward anyway, without any kind of repercussions, without any kind of challenges, without any kind of struggles mentally?
To be honest, I think someone with the educational background would be more inclined to give the proper answer to that. Now, what I can say and assume from my perspective, I think that our environments, no matter what, has an impact on us, right? Positive and
Yes.
negative, right? So wherever we come from, and then, um, and I think what happens is it's about who you become within that environment, right? Like if you growing up in that environment and it's a toxic environment, I feel like it all still comes down to a decision, right? You have to decide, is that an environment that you want to stay in and evolve in, or is that an environment you want to remove yourself from and try to grow beyond it? Will it have negative impacts? I think so. I feel like sometimes we can be in certain environments, they can cause a level of trauma. And let's be clear, trauma is like the new buzzword, right? Everybody, trauma, 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 trauma. But trauma is real.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, trauma is definitely a real thing, right? And I think our environment can cause certain levels of trauma that as adults we have to deal with. And I think a lot of times, especially us as Black men, we have a lot of childhood trauma that we never deal with, and that childhood trauma ultimately affects our relationships and how we move in a lot of ways in our adult life, right? And sometimes some of them traumas can become worse as we get older.
Uh-huh.
Some of those traumas we can um, attempt to like push down, right? We can push it down and kind of keep it down, right? And like try to put our foot on it, right? But
Right.
what I've been told is certain levels of trauma, no matter how deep you push it and how far back you try to push it, at some point it's going to resurrect itself and be right in
Wow.
front of your frontal lobe again, right? And our
Uh-huh.
frontal lobe, is right here, so like it's going to be right there in our everyday frontal lobe. So if we don't find a way to deal with childhood trauma, I think it stagnates us in a lot of ways, right?
Uh-huh.
It hinders growth. But the other piece for me, and I think the most important piece to it is this: as men, um, at some point you may have a child, right? If you have a boy, you have to be very cautious not to pour your unintentionally pour your childhood traumas on your child. So if you
No.
don't deal
Wow.
with them personally and you don't find a way to face them, and which is a good reason to find a good therapist and deal with that therapist and push your way through those traumas, you ultimately have a negative impact on your kid. And I think that's the worst. And so now we get into a point where we're what's the word I'm looking for? We're kind of transitioning and pushing trauma off on our kids. So now we turning that trauma into generational trauma at this point now, because now my trauma I'm pushing off on my kid, right? So now
Right.
Junior, he carries my name and now he's carrying my trauma. I don't want my child to carry my trauma,
Mm.
right?
Powerful. Hmm.
Right? I want my child, because he's going to have, especially as a Black boy, at some point he's going to be a Black man. He's going to have enough to deal with that society's going to give him and push on him. That I don't want anything that Daddy's done to increase his level of stress and trauma because something
Right.
Daddy's did. I don't want to do that. I don't want no parts of that. Right? I want to be as positive and has the most positive effect on him as possible. Especially when we understand that having a kid, kids don't come with instructions. Damn, they don't. So you gotta you figuring it out. My oldest son is a perfect
Uh-huh.
example. My oldest son deals with um, schizophrenia and bipolarism. He called me one day and he says, Dad, I feel like you don't take time to understand my illness. And I'm like, it's not that daddy don't take time to understand your illness. Daddy still got to be supportive of you in the most positive way because I know with all the other trauma that you had to deal with,
Mm.
that wasn't due to daddy. All daddy know how to do is be daddy, right? And
Yeah.
I said to him, I said, yo, when you came out the womb, God ain't sent you with instructions, bro. So this is so raising a child is the one thing we do in life that we learn on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
We learn on the fly, like
You got
you know
that
what I'm
right.
saying, like and then what we do is we take from the things that we learned growing up, the good and the bad. So okay, growing up, I got beat with a switch. You know what I mean? I would never beat my son with a
Yep.
switch. You know what I'm saying? I would
Gen
never beat
X.
him with a switch. Yeah, like I you know what I mean? Had my ass got my ass handed to me. So we gotta think about those things or some of the things I wouldn't do. Now I'm gonna check my son. Don't get it twisted. He understand. Like, yo, don't try daddy. Like we ain't gonna do that one. Either one of them, the little one or the
Right.
big one, they understand. Like they see my body and my energy change. They're like, oh, okay, we're gonna leave them alone. Let them be good. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? But I always say I would rather my kids respect me and have a little bit of fear of me that they know enough to, like, they respect me enough to never cross the line, but fear me enough to never think about crossing the line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then that's how I think. So so with that, it's like, all right, how do I balance that and never put none of my trauma on them, right?
Right.
Never try to induce my trauma on them and what I go with. So that's why I'm thinking about this whole therapy thing is definitely a piece that should be um, a requirement for us, right?
Uh-huh.
A requirement and a want, especially for Black men, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as Gen Xers, we grew up with, you know, don't show no fear. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Fix your face. What you crying about? Don't be emotional. Why you being all emotional? Like, you know what I mean? Like, like you just
Uh-huh.
and so right? And so now but here's the flip side to that though, right? So we was toward that, but now I feel like this new generation is too emotional, right? They way too emotional.
You ain't kidding.
So it's like where we at now, right? Like, and so even
Yep.
like what my son, my youngest, right? If he falls, I give him no reaction. You good? If he cry, I'm very conscious to never say to him, stop crying. Hell no, you
Right.
human. He hurt. You hurt. Go ahead. But you only get
Yeah.
a little. You only get a couple of. You know what I mean? You get 30 seconds of crying. You get 30 good seconds. And if it's real bad, I might give you 60. But after that, we gotta get it together. Come on, let's go. Right. But for me,
Uh-huh.
that piece also is a bigger lesson that in life we can't sit and mope too long. We don't get that long to mope. We don't get that long to live in self pity. We gotta have our moment, dust ourselves up, get back to it. You know what I mean? And I
Rich,
feel like
let me tell you. Oh,
I did.
no, I'm
I said, and
sorry.
I
Go
feel
ahead.
like therapy. No, and I
What'd you
feel
say?
like there. I said I feel like therapy is another way of creating a level of endurance for us and strength as men. I think one other thing too is like I said, that non-emotional thing. But I'm always like my homies. Like I ain't got a lot. I can count them on my hand. Right, that's my homies that I know like are my real friends. If something was to happen, I know that they coming. You know what I mean? His godfather is one of them, right? Like,
Uh,
and when I talk to them, every time I get off the phone with them, I'm like, yo, I love you, dude. I'm comfortable in my manhood enough that I can tell my man, my homie, I love you. Like, I love you.
Right.
Some dudes can't do that, right? Once
Yep.
again, because you got to go to therapy because some kind of child you gotta deal with that trauma, you know. So
Wow. Rich, you said in the beginning of me asking you that question that you feel like someone in the profession would be more suited to answer that. But when I tell you, I love the way that you presented it, and I really feel it needed to be heard the way that you said it. It was so real, it was so authentic. You were speaking from experience. It was powerful. And I really feel a lot of people needed to hear that the way that it was delivered. Because you are speaking from an empathetic point of view, because you are dealing with a situation with your son and you're dealing with it in your profession. And you've experienced it yourself. So kudos to you, my dear friend, because what you shared for real, what you shared was very powerful and impactful. And I really feel it will reach the hearts of people. It needs to, because it's a serious situation that's going on right here. I said you completely took away the other question because you answered it so thoroughly and so on
what
point.
what was the other question?
No, it was about how mental illness, how it affects and impacts the household, and you just went, you flowed with it. No, trust
No,
me, I got a few
yeah,
more, but I'm
it
like,
definitely, it
that
definitely, it definitely
that was
does.
awesome.
Uh,
That was awesome. Um, now when you see, or in your opinion, I would love to hear this from you. Uh, if let me see, do you feel, in your opinion, that it's okay? And I kind of know where you're going to go with this because you have shared it. Uh, that it's okay for a man to acknowledge that he is struggling. Um, and do you feel that sometimes, if you've seen it or heard it, or maybe even experienced yourself, that you feel less than because you have to admit to that, or because you have to admit that you have something going on? Do you feel like it's like a power thing, a pride thing?
well, I mean, like I said earlier, like, us Gen Xers are different from the millennials and these new ones, right? We were brought up in a different time, a more rugged, a more tougher time, right? And um masculinity can be a gift and a curse, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
and so in your masculinity, you feel like that you have to be there's a certain level of toughness and grit that you're supposed to have that isn't always the truth, but that's what we feel we're supposed to have, right? So
right.
um but what happens is not not being able to be vocal about our struggles is a yin and a yang, right?
Uh-huh. I
Or
love
I
that.
won't even. I don't know if I would say is that a yin and a yang? It's like I don't even think it's a yin and a yang. I'm gonna say it's the devil and the angel, and I'm
Okay.
gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you why. Because you can be struggling with something, and you gotta have the right people that you feel safe with to divulge that information to them. And if you don't have the right people in your life that you feel safe with to divulge that information to, then what do you do? Right? Because so many people nowadays are looking for social media clicks and wanting to be seen and fake and phony. And so now if I come and I show this level of vulnerability to you, you may in turn go gossip about it, or you may in turn throw it in my face one day because me and you had a disagreement. So as a man, where do I find my security and my masculinity to be vulnerable, but not to be weak? And it's like playing Russian roulette, right? And you just
Uh-huh.
got the gun and you like click, 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 and you just hoping that that click don't be the last click. right?
Mm,
Because you want to make sure that you got the right people, right? And here's the piece to it, right? So I just lost a homie um, who committed suicide December 23rd.
mm. I'm sorry.
And, and to see him move around, you would believe that he was one of the strongest dudes you ever want to run into because that's who he was. His bravado was dope. He was a strong dude, right? He had dope bravado. He was a protector, right?
Right.
Had his own businesses and shit. What happens is sometimes sometimes we can go down the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm. Mm,
Sometimes as black men, we can go down the rabbit hole. And what happens is I think all of us go down the rabbit hole. I've been down it. I've thought
mm,
about taking my life before. I have. I've
mm,
gotten there, right? And I think that there's a there's a there's a thing, right? It's one thing to go down the rabbit hole and still see the light. There's another thing to go down that rabbit hole and now you can no longer see the light.
mm, mm,
And what happens is you get down that rabbit hole and you no longer see the light. You see no reason to come back because I can't see the light. But if I'm down the rabbit hole and I can still see the light, then that level of thinking about taking my own life doesn't seem as as present because I can still see some light. But if I'm down this rabbit hole enough and it's dark enough, then thinking about taking my life becomes a little easier because I don't see any light, right? And I
mm-hmm.
think about the times that I thought about taking my own life. I think the thing that saved me was my spiritual grounding and my grandmother, right? And I could hear my grandmother saying to me that if you take your own life, God doesn't forgive you for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could literally hear her voice telling me that, right? And then I could hear that voice saying, if you take your own life, what impact are you gonna have on her, your sisters, mother, because you decided to be selfish?
Mm, mm,
And
mm,
so I, I don't know. It's that it's that it's that it's that Russian roulette. Click,
mm-hmm.
click, click. And if you don't have that safety net, you gotta. It's I think it's critical for us as black men to have a a circle and a covenant, right?
Yeah.
You gotta have a circle and a covenant. And if you
Wow.
got the covenant with the circle, what happens is you be all the way in that black hole, down that rabbit hole, and it get real dark, and you can't see nothing but dark. And then you see this hand. Yo,
Mhm.
what you doing? Come here, come here. What you doing?
Yes.
You feel
Yes.
what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because when you got the people around you that can watch your patterns, they see you move different. They move closer. They checking on you more. They in your ear more. And you have become comfortable enough to tell them, yo, my homie Montez, like that's my man. That is my homie. And that's my son's godfather. And I made him my son godfather for a couple of reasons. One, because I know that if God were to take me out here tomorrow, he's gonna make sure my son good. without question. I put everything on that. I know he going from until he ain't here no more. He gonna make sure that little boy good, right? But the other piece is he and I have built such a bond that we can be vulnerable in front of each other and feel safe, right? It ain't never gonna come back up. It ain't never gonna be thrown in our feet in each other's faces. We can be vulnerable enough where if I gotta sit in front of him and totally break down in tears, I know that when I'm done and I clean up,
Uh-huh.
it's done. It ain't never
Mhm.
gonna come back up. It ain't never gonna be thrown in my face. It ain't never gonna leave that space that we was in. And I just feel like we gotta have people in our lives that's like that, right?
Yes.
And he, to me, he's not a friend. That's my brother. That's literally my brother from another mother. Like, you gotta have that. And I feel like as men, we don't always build those kind of bonds and connections to have those safe spaces. Because you gotta have the safe spaces, man. When we deal with the BS at work, we deal with the BS of society, we deal with the BS of being a parent, of trying to make it, of trying to be successful, whatever successful looks like to you, right?
Mhm.
Um, just all that, just you want to have people in your life that's going to celebrate you because when you win and they win, and when they win and you win, that's
Right.
what you gotta have it. And when you don't have that, you're missing things. And like I said, like, you know, life be throwing Mike Tyson blows. And you got the, you know what I'm saying, and you taking these blows, you know what I mean? And sometimes you ain't in a space to get one back. And you need to be, when you get knocked down, you need the people that's going to be stand over top of you and say, whoa, 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 so whoa, whoa, man, you can't swing this way no more. Hold on, chill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when we get in those holes, so when I think about my homie, like, I don't know what got him to where it got him to, but I just wish that he and I was, or he had more people in the space that uh, could have been there to stick their hand down that hole, right, and
Right.
pulled him out of it, right. We deal with depression. Sometimes we be dealing with depression. Don't even realize we dealing with depression. It's
Yes.
another reason why, if you got a good therapist, the therapist gonna pick up on that, right? You gotta do that, right? And within all that, like I said, that covenant to me is being able to go find you a corner and get in that space and talk to God and meditate, right? I say this is once again, this is Richard Dwight Sutton Sr.'s perspective. Please, this ain't I ain't speaking for no professionals or none of that. I'm just giving perspective, right?
Hmm.
But for me, I always feel like meditation is the miscommunication that Black folks was never given when we talk about God. And what I mean by that is this: when we pray, we essentially we're talking, right? We're still talking to God, right? And
Uh-huh.
so if I'm talking and you talking, how can we hear each other, right?
Mm.
There's not an opportunity to 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 hear God speak because we talking, right? And
Amen.
usually in those spaces if we talking, we usually asking, we got our hand out, right?
Right.
Versus giving gratitude, right? And I try to be very conscious of that when I pray. I
Yes.
pray to show gratitude, to give God gratitude versus
Hmm.
asking all the time, right? Because
Yes.
I just be wanting my father to know that I'm appreciative that I didn't have to wake up this morning. I didn't have to make it home from work today. My boys didn't have to be protected while they move around, they move about, my family members and so forth and so on, right? So I want to give gratitude, right?
Uh-huh.
But I think meditation is an opportunity to have God download any and everything that He needs to say to you in a space that you can be in a reception, right? You can receive, right? So when you sit in meditation, you sitting in peace, you sitting in quiet, and you get to just not think about nothing. You're not doing anything additional. You just get to really just be at peace. And I
Right.
think it's the perfect opportunity for God to download any and everything that He wants to say to you in that process. So
I
I
agree.
know I talk too much. I apologize.
Oh no, honey, you ain't talking too much. You talking truth. You're preaching. Glory to God. No, I am so serious. It's like it's revelational and you're speaking truth. And the Father, I pray like that as well, where it's gratitude.
Yeah.
I always want to thank him for what it is that he's done, what it is that he's going to do, what it is that he saved me from, and I don't even know. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people just think that, let me, gimme, 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 gimme. And what kind of relationship is that? Just gimme, gimme,
Mm-hmm.
gimme, gimme, gimme. It's just like, thank you. I appreciate you. You are the reason I am here. You are the reason I woke up this morning. You are the reason I'm breathing. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. So I admire you for doing that and speaking on that. And not only that, I love your transparency with everything that you just shared. Powerful. And I thank you for that because I know it's things that need to be heard. And I love the fact when you just shared about communication, especially when you're talking to the Lord and you have the communication. It's just like you said. That's why I'm trying to be as quiet as I can when you're sharing because you need to be heard. What you're saying, people want to hear. And because
Mm-hmm.
of that, you got to be silent. So when the Lord, like, we may ask, we may seek and pray, but then you're going to have that moment where you step back and you're like, all right, Father, speak to me. I really want to hear what you have to say. And you have to
Mm-hmm.
give him that moment. Awesome, brother. Awesome. Awesome. And thank you for that. And
Uh,
crazy thing is, I'm sitting here thinking, are you reading my notes? Can you see somehow? Because I cannot believe you hit on another topic. I'm gonna ask you about you are intuitive and gifted. I always told you that anyway.
I can't.
Um, you need to really get back out and do that motivational speaking because you have something that people need to hear. And multitudes of people need to hear it. So you need to get back out there. People need to hear you because it is so important because you're speaking a truth, even if it's coming from your own personal experience. There's so many people who go through it. Maybe not exactly the same, but the principle of the matter remains the same. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, and you're you're able to relate to them with what it is that you're saying. I truly believe that. And it's like, I ain't no dude, but I'm like relating to some things that you're saying. You know what I mean? It's just like maybe not the guy part, but the principle of the
Right.
reality of what it is that you're saying, because you're speaking a truth. So
Right.
that will apply to a multitude of people.
Yeah.
And that's really important because one of the things that I was going to ask you was like about in this age of social media, like a lot of people, they're putting on these false fronts or they're saying, oh, everything is all, happy go lucky and everything like that. Just like you shared, unfortunately, with your friend, it's like, but behind closed doors, what are they really going through? And it's like, um, because they make up stories, they do things like that. So, do you feel that because of social media and what a lot of people look at, um, that actually tries to make them want to come up and be like and compare themselves, and that can cause some issues in a person trying to be like Mike? Yes, I'm corny, but I don't care.
Nah, I'm with you. Nah, I feel like social media is the one of the worst things that could ever happen to us.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at the effect it's having on our kids. You have
Yes.
more kids talking about committing suicide. You have more kids talking about harming themselves. Social media is very, very dangerous and it's not really good. And so you think about it, right? They say the frontal lobe of, I know for men, I think it doesn't start to develop until like 25, I think it is. It doesn't become fully developed to 25, right?
Right.
So and I could be wrong. It's 20, and maybe is it 25? I think it's 25. 21. No, I think it's 25. I'm almost positive it's 25, right? That frontal lobe. And social media creates these false narratives that a lot of people want to get out and chase, right? But
Mhm.
it's also the space where everybody want to be seen now, right? Everybody got something to say, even if you don't got nothing to say, they got something to say. Like right now,
Yes.
one of the things I hate is when all these people now want to be these relationship gurus. Like, first of all, who the F are you? And what credentials do you got to be out here telling anybody about what? Sit down. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because your experience is your experience. And my experience is
Yes.
my experience, right? It's almost like how people ran and went crazy over Steve Harvey with the Think Like a Man book or whatever, right? And
Uh-huh.
you broke your neck to take advice from a man that hasn't had a successful marriage yet, but you wouldn't hear what he got to say, right? Now,
Good thought.
right, but
Yeah.
but when you got Pop down the street, him and Grandma been married for 45, 50 years. This dude ain't even had a 10-year marriage, right? And or and you want to hear what he got to say because he got the platform, right? So as a
Uh,
society, we've become easily gullible to take on and listen to what everybody has to say. And it's kind of like if I'm in a room full of noise, I can't really hear what nobody's saying because everybody's talking. And I can't really debate with you because they said from afar, if you two people arguing, you can't tell who the fool is, right? So I
right.
ain't going to sit around and argue with you about it, right? That's how you feel. And so I just believe social media has increased the level of people with depression,
Yes.
the people who thinks more, who have a more suicidal thoughts, because they sit and scrolling through social media for hours at a time, looking at things that these people don't really have, but they fraud like they got it. Right? They struggling. They credit probably worse than your credit, but you don't know that because you just going off of that, right?
Yep.
And the other thing with social media is people never put up their struggles. They only put up their quote unquote successes. I mean, if that's
Yes.
what they really are, right? No one,
Yes.
no one ever really puts up that they struggling right now
True.
and that what they can't pay their rent or they just lost their job, right? They just want to get on there and floss. So I hate social media. And social media is one of those things where you you social media now is almost like a woman to a man. Can't live with them and can't live without them, right?
I love
That's
that
what so
analogy.
Well, right. That's what social media has become because like if you got a business, if you got something that you want to promote, if you are artist, if you are a mechanic or whatever, you need
Yes,
social
sir.
media to drive that business. Or it's like you damned if you do, damned if you don't. So you got to be very conscious of how you got to control it and don't let it control you, right?
Right.
And once again, I feel like, take it back to the topic as men, like you get these dudes when they're talking and shit about, yeah, if you ain't doing this for your woman, you ain't doing that, you ain't this. What? Who you, bro? Who you? Who you? Right? You may be able to do all that for your chick, but your chick don't feel safe with you. What we really talking about?
That's
Right?
deep.
You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? Yeah, you got a couple
Uh-huh.
dollars, but you a cold sucker. So when you check out with you, she nervous anyway because she feel like you ain't really gonna protect her anyway. So, well,
Wow. Yeah.
but when my chick out with me, she know ain't a damn thing gonna happen to her. So, what are we talking about? Right? We not talking the same talk. We ain't talking man talk for real. Right? We not.
Yep.
You got little boys dressing up trying to be men, trying to have grown men conversation with little boy terminology. It don't it don't work. You know what I mean? Like that's where we at with it, and it frustrates me a lot too, man. And I watch the kids, and especially being in the schools and how the kids think, man. We had a situation the other day, um, and they were saying how one of the little girls at the school still thought Martin Luther King was alive. How? How on God's green earth does this little girl think that Martin Luther King's still alive? Where we where are we at? And the thing about being an educator is we are the scapegoats for everybody,
Yeah,
right? Some oh, it's the teacher's fault. Oh, it's the teacher. How is it the teacher's fault?
yeah,
Because we teachers, we mentors, we therapists, we doctors. I mean, we wear all these hats and ain't getting paid for them, right?
yeah,
And then when the kid leave us, and you get the kid home, and your kid ain't, like your kid don't even know. I had to say to a parent, a situation where talking to the dad. That's why I like talking to men, right? So the
uh-huh,
young boy called his dad. Young boy said he said that he was calling somebody up to the school for me. I said, well, cool. Tell him my name is Richard Dwight Sutton. I drive a blue Maxima Platinum Edition. It's always parked on rare. Just so when they
uh-huh,
come looking for me, they can find me. I don't want them to mistake nobody. They know who I am. You know what I'm talking about. So he on the phone, whatever, whatever. I gave him time to make the call, right? Once again, teaching these young boys how to be men and understand how mental health plays a part in all this, right?
uh-huh.
So he called, but he don't make nothing happens, right? He ain't got nobody to call because he a puppy trying to have a pit bull bark.
Uh-huh.
So he called his dad later that day, and I guess he thought that I was going to be scared. I said, "Oh, your dad, come here, yeah. Come here, let me talk to him. Let me holler at him. What's up, Dad? Yeah, when can you come up? Let's talk face to face. Like let's talk, right? I'm like,
Uh-huh.
because do you realize that your son don't know his basic multiplication facts?
Mm,
You know that that your
mm.
son that your son is in the eighth grade and he don't know his basic multiplication facts. Yeah, no. Let's get here. Come up and see me. When you come up, tell him to call me. I'll come downstairs. It ain't about nothing. You know what I'm saying? So it's that for me, right? Like when we talk about mental health, when we talk about, we got to start with these young boys and teach them, you know, how to maneuver a certain way, how to think a certain way, and stop taking everything for a joke, and
Right.
understand what education is to them, and why it's not serious and what the setup is, right? Because
Mhm.
you don't know your multiplication facts, they banking on you not graduating high school because they banking on this bid they got waiting for you at this prison. $5,000 per person. You
Yeah.
cash, bro. Right?
Wow.
So we gotta address all those things, man. And I think those are things that we missing. And that's why I feel like as men, we gotta create these safe havens. We gotta create these covenants of being able to really talk and converse and be vulnerable at times. Because vulnerable
Yes.
don't mean weak. And I think sometimes that's where we lose it. We act like vulnerable means weak, and that ain't the case.
I
You know
love
what I
that.
mean? It don't. I feel like being vulnerable for the right causes, for the right situations, it exudes strength, right?
Yes.
It galvanizes what a man is because you're able to differentiate when you need to be weak and when you need to be strong,
Right.
right? And so we not really teaching these young boys that no more. That's why they all out here pulling guns. They can't fight. They don't have no hand game, right? It's easy to pull a trigger and sit in the prison for the next
Wow.
18, 30 years versus be able to throw your hands and go home and clean your bloody nose and your bloody mouth and wake up tomorrow and, live another day. They don't know
Yeah.
nothing about that
Nope.
because we got boys playing men, trying to raise men. Don't
Oof.
make sense.
No, not even a
Mhm.
little bit. You are speaking so much truth. And especially because I have men, young men, And I'm constantly praying, constantly, each and every single day for their covering and for them to use wisdom and for them to just stay encouraged and for them to just be covered and just remember who, who has them.
Yep.
Um, it's constantly, constantly because, me as a woman and was raising boys because I was a single mom, it was just like it was tough. And um, but my boys, I love who they've become. Yeah, they're going through their, they go through their things, 25 and going on 28. But the core of who they are is based on that foundation that you and I grew up with. So they're different. They're not, they're different. They have that peace. And I'm thankful for that. Um, because I see the struggle is real and I know, for them, for the things that they share and things of that nature. And sometimes it's things that I can't help them with, unfortunately, because I can only just love on them and nurture them and give them that part. I can only impart wisdom, God's wisdom, and just hope that they just use that as a platform, use that as ammunition in this world against the adversary, against everything that comes up against them. And it seems like they do that. That's how they stand firm because of that foundation. And it's just like and it's just like a constant battle for these young men. I'm
Because I
seeing.
feel like
And
young dudes that's in their early 20s,
yeah.
mid 20s, and late 20s, right?
Hmm.
They need they need somebody that's in a mature 40s, late 30s, early 40s, and back on out to be able to come park their issues with, right?
Yep.
So if I'm dealing with something, right, and I'm struggling with this, right? This is how we stay out the rabbit hole, right?
Right.
When you have somebody that has a little bit of wisdom that you can go park your issues with and discuss them with, right? And that you can
Right.
be vulnerable in those moments and know that you're safe and this person cares about you in your as a whole, in your full totality. They care about you, right? That
Yeah.
you can park this issue with that person. Y'all discuss that. When you pull back out that parking space, you feel better than you did when you parked,
Love it.
right? So
Yep.
and that's what you need. And I wish I had that when I was younger, right? I didn't have that.
Yep.
You gotta have somebody that you can sit down, boom, and as a young person, you really gotta have a listening ear. You
Yes.
have to you have to understand the art of real listening, right? When
Right.
you master the art of real listening, you create the opportunity of true growth.
Mm. I
You know
love
what I'm
that.
saying? So I mean, I just feel like that's what you have to be able to do, right? Because that when that person is imparting some of that wisdom into you, that wisdom becomes now a part of you, right?
Yes.
And so now you have a little more wisdom than you did before you parked that car,
That's
right?
it.
And that's where you can create that growth. I just feel like they all should every young cat should have that, man, and be able to just sit back, chit chat, and talk, right? Hence the reason why I love the cigar shop. Like people think, oh yeah, yeah, just like smoking a cigar. Like nah, like you really like I give you an example. Um, I got an older gentleman named Mr. Kev, and I tell you, I love this guy. Mr. Kev, man, older Caucasian gentleman. When I tell you I love this guy, like if he called me right now, I would, and he needed me, I would be like, "Yo, Tam, I gotta hit you back. Let me go check on my old head." Like, no, like no joke, seriously, like
I
this is my
believe you.
guy, right?
I believe
And
you.
and so one day I came into the cigar lounge, and Mr. Kev got to be about, I'm gonna say, early early 70s to mid 70s,
Okay.
right? Good dude, really good dude, right? So I came in one day, I'm pissed off, right? I'm pissed, fucking, like, F this job. I'm in my bag, right? Mr. Cam sitting there, right? He toting on the stick. He like, what's up, Rich? I'm like, oh, Mr. Kev. Right? He just puffing on the stick, right? He leaned forward, puffed on the stick one more time, sipped on his wine. He said, let me tell you something. He said, don't you ever let a job push you to a point where it disrupts your life. The moment it does that, you find you a new job. He leaned back in his chair, kept puffing on his stick. He looked at me again. He said, you hear me? I said, yes, sir. He said, all right, now go get you a stick and it's on me. I said, all right.
Oh, I love
But but understand the wisdom that was there though, right? He saw me in restraint. He
Yes.
executed, right?
Yes.
He seen what it was. He said, come here, youngster, let me holler at you.
Yes.
Don't you Now go get a stick and come back and chill. Let that go. That is the benefit of having someone who has more life experiences in your life to keep you
Mm.
from falling in that rabbit hole.
Woo. That's
You
what
know what
these
I'm saying?
men need. That is what these young men need. Young men and older men alike. That is what
Yeah,
they need.
yeah,
That person.
yeah,
That person.
yeah.
My
And
God.
here's the crazy part. Another time he came back into the lounge. Now, mind you, Mr. Cap is the only Caucasian dude in the lounge, right? There. But he bangs with us hard, right? He come into the lounge one day. I'm sitting there, I'm smoking on one of my sticks. I said, Mr. Kev, I said, you good? What's up? You all right? He said, I'll never forget this. He said, now I'm around my family. I'm
Oh,
good. Said I had a little rough day, but I'm better now. Because like when we in the lounge, like there is a nucleus that we had that we just vibed off each other. We would get into some deep conversations. We would talk about some different things, right? And
uh-huh.
it was just it was just dope. It's just men being men. We don't care about your your ethnic background or where you from. None of that. It's the
Uh-huh.
cigar lounge the cigars is the equalizer, right?
Right.
It's the great equalizer, right? The cigar is the equalizer because when you're in a lounge, it's not about your race, color, or creed. You just men, right? You in a lounge, you just men. You got young men, middle-aged men, older men. You just men. If you in a dope cigar lounge, because not all of them are dope, but if you're in a dope one and you got some dope men in there, like, and you got people from all type of backgrounds, you might have a lawyer, you might have somebody that's a trash that collects trash. You might have a teacher. You might have a doctor. You might have a plumber. It's like no one cares about any of that. We just need to chop it up. But you might make different connections and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And there, so like I said, it's cigar lounge is like the great equalizer. I would say the cigar lounge kind of reminds me of the Masonic Lodge, right? When I go to the lodge,
Uh-huh.
you once you step into the lodge, what you do in your career means absolutely nothing in the lodge.
Uh-huh.
Nothing. It's just men. And that's how it is in the cigar lounge at times. If you're in a good one, not all of them, but in the good one, and you can chop it up, man. Like I said, Mr. Kev, that's how he was. He's one of them people. Like I stay in contact with him. Like he called me, we'll meet up. Where you at? I ain't seen you. Come on, we going out. Let's go. Like, with him, he won't let me pay for nothing. I gotta sneak and pay for something because he won't let. You know what I mean? But
I love it.
but he a blessing, man. Mr. Kev is a blessing. I love him. I genuinely love that old man, yo. I love him, man.
Yes. And
You
I
know.
love to hear this from a man's perspective because just like women, we have to have our squad. We have to have our inner squad. I'm very particular
Yeah.
about who I'm very transparent with. Yes, I'm friendly, outgoing, and everything like that, but there's not many people who are in my inner court. Because you have to protect your heart. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
very careful with that. And you have to feel comfortable in that environment. Just to your point, it's just like when you're in that lounge, you are with your squad, you are with your people, you are with those people that are in that light, that are ready to grab you and pull you back up. That's how you
Mm-hmm.
feel. And that's a great place to be. That truly is a great place to be when you're around that. I always give like this scenario because there's a couple of people in my life, in the scriptures when Mary and Elizabeth meet and they're both pregnant. Jesus is in Mary's womb, and John the Baptist is in Elizabeth's womb. And when they meet, it's like the babies leapt. They leap. They just like their spirit. They just knew each other just by the presence, and it's just like you just feel that presence in a person, and you connect, and it's just like you're like
Mm-hmm.
wow. And that's the best way you describe it. It's just like you don't have to force it. You don't have to. uh, It just happens naturally. The connection, the communication, the love. It's just like it's there. It doesn't take a long time to formulate. It doesn't take a long time to form or to bond. It's just like divine appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, and so you as a man and also me as a woman, we need that. We need
Yeah.
that. I said this
Uh,
conversation was so good. I had to, bring back, the woman side a little bit, just a little bit, because I said it has been such a blessing having you on here because the conversation has just been wonderful. I love you, friend. I appreciate you. I thank
love you
you
back.
for
Love
being
you
who
back.
you are. I thank you for being so transparent. And I'm so glad for the divine appointment. I'm so glad that our paths crossed way back in that financial institution that I'm not going to mention.
Yeah, I listen, I pray that someone watches this may be in a position where they do feel lost, they do feel depressed, they do feel like they getting deep in that rabbit hole when it changes their perspective and they decide to reach out and find a therapist and reach out and connect to that friend that may be able to help them in a time of need. I think that what we forget is we were never put here to do or be alone. We were never put here to accomplish alone. That's when I hate when people make that arrogant comment, I did it by myself. No one does
Right,
nothing by themselves. At some
right.
point, somebody helped you. You didn't do it all by yourself. You may did some of it, but not all of it, right? So, I'm hoping that my words are a spear of redemption, a knife of love and a upkeep of higher thought, right? To
Hmm.
move your perspective and the way you think, see, and view how you interact with other Black men or men in general, and the importance of why Black men need to bond, create those covenants and those circles that we can hold each other accountable, be each other's counterpart, and be each other's support system. And so if one of us fall, there's five of us to pull you back up, right? And
Amen.
you can never, even if you find that rabbit hole, you decide to go deep into that rabbit hole, that we can create that chain um, to get down in that hole and pull you back up, right?
Yes.
That's the goal, right? And I pray that someone sees this and finds the opportunity to understand and research meditation and the importance of it and how it creates a different level of connection to God, whoever your God is. I'm not here to determine who you call God, but whoever your God is, right? Mine's just happened to go by the name of Jesus, or or whatever. So you whatever your God is, find that connection to that spiritual connection to be grounded and to have that covenant of love and understanding that you know he should find himself and he should never be alone. that you should find that circle of people that love you unconditionally. So even when you
Um,
fall and you need to be dusted off, they're gonna dust you off and put you back on your feet, get you back on your square. You know, that's
yes,
that's
yes.
my hope.
Thank you for those words of wisdom. Thank you for this time. See, we did so much better than 18 minutes.
That was the setup. That was the cue. You know what I
That
mean?
was up where you was like, how am I show 18 minutes long?
Yeah, because I felt like
I was a
we didn't get to
novice.
get
I had
dirty.
just started. I was nervous.
No, you good, man. I've been seeing you, man.
I
You've been doing your thing.
But I appreciate you. You are an intricate part of making that happen. And I thank you for that. I thank you for your constant encouragement. I thank you for just motivating me to just do it. And so even doing it afraid, I always use that, doing it afraid. I thank you and grateful for you and pray for you continuously and the blessings in you and your family's lives. And
I
I'm
appreciate
just
you.
excited to see you prosper. I just know that ears have heard wisdom on tonight. And I pray that, they're able to take that it really, I know you imparted some wisdom, and I hope that people truly heard and it helps them to make whatever decision it is they need to make to move forward in their life to reach their potential that the Lord has for them. And I thank you for that. I can't wait to see you, speaking. And I know you're coming back. This is not, we got other
Oh,
topics to talk about, my friend.
here
We
you
have
go.
other topics to talk about,
Here you go.
and I'm looking forward to it. I know you got some stuff on the horizon, and I'm looking forward to it.
Let's get it,
So
love. Let's get it.
thank you.
Ditto. I appreciate you. Thank you for being a blessing and being one of God's angels that happened to walk the earth amongst us mere mortals. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, my heart's getting mushy.
Love you, baby.
So you guys remember to subscribe and like this video, and I will have Rich's information down below. And you got to check out his other one when you look into my archives. I don't remember which number, so forgive me. Which
What number
episode
you
number
on
I know?
now?
Huh? I'm
What
on
number?
14, I think.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think you were like number 2. Yeah, I think
Right,
you were
right. Two. Yeah, right. That's
2.
crazy.
Yes.
but that's all right though. So this is 14 right here.
Yeah. I
So,
think this is 15.
oh damn, I thought it was 14. I'm about to say I like to keep my even numbers. 2, 14.
I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna text you and I'm gonna check to confirm.
All good, all good, all good.
But again, we're gonna close on this evening, and remember to hold on to that dream and with unwavering faith begin to live it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and you have a wonderful evening. Bye bye for now.